Family. Today we are going into one of the most misused and misunderstood passages in the entire New Testament. Ephesians 5. Wives submit, husbands love. The husband is head of the wife. God is head of Christ. Religion took this text and built an entire doctrine of dominance, control, hierarchy, and gender roles. But Paul was not giving marriage rules. Paul was not endorsing patriarchy. Paul was not teaching male superiority. He was speaking in metaphors, using the language of spirit and soul, the inner world of consciousness. Everything Paul says in Ephesians 5 becomes crystal clear when you understand two things. 1. Paul's teaching style is symbolic. 2. Paul always starts from identity, not behavior. In Ephesians 5:21, Paul begins with mutual submission. Before Paul ever talks about husbands or wives, he lays the foundation. Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Religion skips this verse, but Paul didn't. Why does he start here? Because he is not talking about control. He is talking about alignment. Mutual submission means harmony, inner order, unified consciousness. Submission in Scripture is not about dominance. Submission means yielding to identity of Christ within, letting the higher nature lead the lower nature, letting spirit lead soul. When the inner world is aligned, the outer world will reflect it. And this is why households break down. People try to fix the outside without aligning the inside. Wives, submit is symbolic language for the soul. In Scripture, the wife represents the soul, emotions, desires, thoughts, personality, expression. Not literal gender, the inner feminine principle. 3-tiered visuals showing ascending levels, perhaps water, mist, and light, representing spirit to soul to body. The camera moves upward, emphasizing the proper order of consciousness. The soul must yield to spirit so that a person walks in alignment, not confusion. If the soul leads the spirit, ego rules. If the spirit leads the soul, identity rules. Paul is showing the order of consciousness, spirit to soul to body. Religion turned this into man, woman, children. But that was never Paul's message. Husbands, love your wives, is symbolic language for the spirit. The husband symbolizes the spirit, the inner divine consciousness awakened in us. The spirit leads not by force, but by love. Artistic shot of hands gently holding something precious, representing Christ's sacrificial love. The lighting is reverent and warm, emphasizing tenderness over dominance. That's why Paul doesn't tell husbands, control her, dominate her, rule her, silence her. He tells them, love her as Christ loved the church. Beautiful imagery of a candle flame steady in darkness, representing Christ's self-giving love. The warm light creates an atmosphere of peace and sacrifice. Christ didn't dominate. Christ didn't crush. Christ didn't control. Christ gave himself. He aligned with humanity. This is the spirit embracing the soul with unconditional love, pulling it out of ego and into identity. The husband is the head, of the wife is. Identity language. Religion weaponized this, but Paul explains the entire meaning with one comparison. Even as Christ is head of the church, Christ is the identity of the believer. Christ is not a dictator. He is the essence, the nature, the divine consciousness within us. So, the metaphor is simple. Husband equals spirit, identity. Wife equals soul, expression. The headship is not dominance. It is order, alignment, clarity. This is the same language Paul uses when he says, God is the head of Christ. Is God dominating Christ? No, it is identity hierarchy, not power hierarchy. Paul is describing the flow of divine life. Let's look at the mystery of union. Paul ends by saying, "This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church." He tells you it's symbolic. He literally says, "I'm not talking about marriage alone. I'm using marriage to explain Christ and the believer." In other words, marriage is a metaphor for alignment. Alignment is a metaphor for union. Union is a metaphor for awakened identity. When spirit and soul align, the home reflects it. This is why Paul started with, "Submit yourselves one to another," because when the inner world aligns, spirit leads with love, soul responds with trust, identity flows naturally. Ego dissolves, peace becomes normal, communication begins to heal, love becomes effortless, respect becomes automatic. There is no power struggle. Why? Because both husband and wife become expressions of the divine nature within them. When Christ consciousness rises in the home, 1 Corinthians 13 becomes automatic. Patience, kindness, humility, honor, protection, understanding, forgiveness, unselfishness. These are not learned behaviors. They are the natural fruit of awakened identity. Paul's real teaching on marriage. Paul is saying, marriage is spiritual before it's physical. You cannot have order outside until you have order inside. Spirit must lead the soul. Love must shape leadership. Trust must shape submission. Divine identity creates divine relationships. Religion created hierarchy. Paul described harmony. Religion created control. Paul described alignment. Religion created rules. Paul described union. Family. Ephesians 5 was never about dominance. It was never about one gender ruling the other. It was never about who is superior. It was a teaching on inner alignment where spirit leads, soul expresses, body manifests. And when the inner world is aligned with Christ within, the outer world will mirror that peace. This is the mystery Paul tried to reveal, and this is the mystery religion buried.